So I was very surprised last week to hear that the Game of Thrones spin-off known as Bloodmoon, set during the Long Night in the Age of Heroes, has been cancelled by HBO. According to reports, Jane Goldman emailed the cast to tell them that the project would not be going forward. I don't plan on rehashing all the other videos and articles about the show being dropped. What I want to do is give my honest view and talk about why the show won't be happening and how it does match up with some of what my own sources at HBO have told me. Before I continue, I just want to make clear that the person I know at HBO I went to university with, and I trust the information they've told me is genuine. This person was in no way related directly to the production of the pilot or anything related to Game of Thrones itself. The information they know is simply office rumour and what they've heard around the water cooler sort of stuff. I didn't really want to bring any of this up in my other Bloodmoon videos, as really I had no way to back it up and it was all rumour. And as I've always said, I'm not really a news channel. The reason I want to talk about this is because what I was told does corroborate much of the reports and rumours going around. I know many of you were looking forward to Bloodmoon, so I can clear up any of the reasoning. I hope I can do that. On a personal note, I think a big factor in the show not getting picked up is actually season 8 and the sour taste it has left on the mouths of many people. When the pilot was greenlit, no one really knew what Season 8 would hold. One of the biggest criticisms levelled at Season 8 is the handling of the Long Night and the White Walkers. I know for me personally, it left me very underwhelmed and disappointed. With that being one of the main complaints levelled at the season, and such a big part of Bloodmoon hinging seemingly on it, it would seem like a bad move to invest millions of dollars into a project where there is a distinct lack of interest by the fan base at large and the general viewing audience, at least at this time. I think this may also put to bed my idea that the show was more of an Age of Heroes show than a Long Night focus, as if the Long Night was such an issue for HBO, then they could have easily pivoted away from it if the Age of Heroes was actually the main focus. I also get the feeling that in terms of a more casual audience, there seems to be general little interest in the Age of Heroes. Even many book fans I know and I've talked to are not really that interested, which I think is a shame because it's a very interesting part of history. Now we get some more speculative but reasoned ideas as to why Bloodmoon won't be going forward. From what I've read and from what I've been told, HBO is very aware of the backlash towards Season 8, with some executives as disappointed with the final product as the fans were. For me, this is a big factor in the fate of Bloodmoon. Whatever spin-off comes first, it has to match, if not do better, than the early seasons of Game of Thrones, especially when you consider the sheer amount of money HBO is going to be investing in it. I think they've had to choose a spin-off very carefully, and I think the reason I've already talked about in this video, and I think for reasons such as Season 8 and the lack of interest in The Long Night and the White Walkers, that show was not Bloodmoon, but a more safer bet in The House of the Dragon. From the conversations I've had with someone at HBO I used to go to university with, there is an open rumour Bloodmoon's pilot was just not very good. During production, it became very clear that the direction they were heading in was not working. There have been some suggestions flying about YouTube that the show was pitched to HBO as Downton Abbey in Westeros, with it having a very different feel and tone to that of the main show. The reason I bring this up is it does seem to blend well with what I was told about Bloodmoon, always being seen as a more experimental project for HBO. If this is the case, then perhaps HBO didn't like this experimental approach to the world, fearing alienating fans further, and decided to go with a more safer bet, more in line with what they know people loved about the show, which I think they have done with House of the Dragon. I think that internally at HBO, this Bloodmoon pilot was always going to be a long shot, and a kind of let's see what kind of happens kind of pilot. In a way, the hand was almost forced in announcing the production of it. With Game of Thrones as big as it is, and big name stars like Naomi Watts part of the cast, it would have been impossible to keep it under wraps. And I think a lot of the mainstream media, and even some fans to some extent, just assumed that the series would go into production and that this wasn't just an actual pilot project. The factor that may have played a part in this is the idea that by doing Age of Heroes, they would not have too much source material to play off. Yes, this would have given Jane Goldman more of an open playground, but perhaps the declining quality of the main show once they surpassed the books was a factor that made HBO wary of doing this again. The House of the Dragon has a lot more source material to work with in Fire and Blood, George R.R. Martin more directly involved, while still giving a lot of creative freedom for the showrunners to do their own thing and fill in the blanks. First warning signs for me that something was awry with Bloodmoon was when rumours of the House of the Dragon was going to be greenlit for a pilot first surfaced a few weeks back. I could not see how HBO could really afford to do both shows when they struggled to really afford to do later seasons of Game of Thrones with the sheer amount of CG work involved with the dragons and the Long Night. and once my source kind of told me about the quality of the pilot and the direction it was taking, I had a feeling that something like this was on the cards. I am disappointed we will not see Bloodmoon, as I'd have liked to have seen the Age of Heroes on screen. From what we've heard, there may have been too many risks involved right now for HBO to take. I don't think this is the last we will see of the project, however. If the House of the Dragon does well, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets revived in some form somewhere down the line. What I want to know is, how do you feel about Bloodmoon getting cancelled? I'm disappointed, but I understand the decision, and I'm looking forward to House of the Dragon. But let me know in the comments below, because I know for a fact from the comment section in my previous Bloodmoon videos that a lot of you really were looking forward to seeing the Age of Heroes and Bloodmoon in general. So let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, liking and subscribing would help a lot.